Hello, and thanks for joining us. I'm Lauren Petty. Health and wellness are important for all of us at any age. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll share tips to stay healthy and avoid injury. We also have life-saving advice from our viewers and new medical breakthroughs. We begin with the story of a South suburban mom who lost her ability to speak but is still determined to be heard. Kristen Rankin is living with ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. She gave us a glimpse into her daily life to show us why more research is needed to stop this terrible disease.
1, 2.
Kristen Rankin can't get out of bed in the morning without the help of her husband, Kevin.
I have my ups and downs. I have my ups and downs too.
Their emotional ride began in 2016 when Kristen was on track to become a tenured professor.
I counted 17 falls that spring, and that wouldn't be the end of them.
Kristen also had muscle quivers and trouble pinching her fingers. She went to a neurologist, and the mom of 3 young girls learned she had ALS.
The youngest was just turning 3 when I was diagnosed. So there was a period when she was gaining motor skills as I was losing them.
ALS impacts the nerves that control our muscles, and there's no cure.
I was in denial for a long time.
And Kristen isn't alone.
We're seeing more and more young people being diagnosed with ALS.
Dr. John Coleman is one member of Kristen's extensive care team that has helped her live beyond the typical life expectancy.
90% of people with ALS die within 3 to 5 years. But I've been lucky to get 7 years and counting.
Kristen takes nearly 24 pills a day, including a medication called Relyvrio, approved in the fall of 2022.
These are drugs that have shown to slow progression of the disease.
Still able to feed herself for now, Kristen is not a candidate for another medication approved in April 2023.
That is a medicine that is targeting those people with that specific mutation. But there are lots of people, 85% of people, who we don't know what mutation they have.
That's why Kristen and Kevin believe more research is needed.
Historically, I think one of the reasons ALS has been underfunded is because it wasn't very visible. My family.
ALS may have taken her ability to speak clearly, but through this tablet, Kristen is still making herself heard.
I want to be an example to challenge the assumption that ALS only affects older white men.
As her children grow older, Kristen can't teach them to cook or volunteer in their classrooms.
I also really miss being able to give them a hug when they're down, or I'm proud of them, or just because.
But she says she's become a very good listener, grateful for every moment she still has with her daughters and husband.
We've adapted and found other ways to connect, whether that's hanging out in the backyard on a nice day or going out to enjoy live music.
With something as simple as a pen, 2 Northwestern students are helping people who suffer from Parkinson's disease. They were motivated by one of their grandfathers, who used to send weekly letters. When his tremors worsened and he couldn't write anymore, the granddaughter teamed up with a sorority sister to create their own solution. Straight from a 3D printer, this may be the solution when tremors prevent steady handwriting for Parkinson's patients.
It's called the SteadyScript Parkinson's Pen Set.
It started when Izzy Mokotov was looking for a way to help her grandfather.
Growing up, he would write me and my siblings and cousins weekly handwritten letters.
But then his tremors worsened and the beloved letters became too difficult to write, a disappointment Izzy shared with her sorority sister, Alexis Chan.
And she was like, well, why don't we create something?
Honestly, before we started this process, I had no background in design, no background in 3D printing, 3D modeling, or anything.
The pair has worked on SteadyScript for more than a year. With the patent pending, we can't reveal all the mechanics, but magnets are key.
We have a magnet in the tip of the pen, and that pairs with the steel backing, and that really just snaps the pen in place, holds it down, and allows you to write steady, because we're SteadyScript.
Izzy sent her grandfather one of the original prototypes.
And he was able to write with it a couple of times, write me letters with it, which was so impactful, and he was able to give us feedback on how to improve the design.
These magnets to hold the paper in place, they were his idea, and they've gotten other suggestions from area Parkinson's patients.
That's what really drives me to keep iterating, keep improving the pen with this feedback.
We still are looking for a manufacturer to partner with and are hopeful we'll find a right fit soon.
Hundreds are on the wait list already, but Izzy's grandfather is not one of them. Sadly, he passed away in December 2022.
I think he would be excited about the progress that we're making and hopeful that we'll be able to, really put it on the market soon.
I checked in with Izzy and Alexis recently, and they had good news to share. They have secured a manufacturer, and they plan to put the pen on the market in the next coming months. You can join the waitlist by going to our website at NBCChicago.com and search Parkinson's pen. Now, some food for thought. We know nutrition plays an important role in managing chronic conditions and diseases, and that includes cancer. Here's a look at how experts recommend you change your eating habits following a diagnosis.
It's the diagnosis no one wants.
The news of that is life-changing. I mean, it just puts you into a screeching halt.
Lena Teibel's husband, Bill, has stage 4 prostate cancer that has metastasized to his bones.
You need to find a way to try to control or try to feel like you can control the situation.
Lena started making that difference in the kitchen.
Today we're going to be making a really simple dish.
Determined to give her husband the proper fuel to fight his cancer, she started taking cooking classes at Wellness House. The nonprofit, with locations in Hinsdale and Chicago, provides support for cancer patients and their families.
There's a lot of evidence-based research to show that diet can make a really big impact.
Angela Dennison is the nutrition program manager for Wellness House.
Just chop up the rest.
Which holds nutrition seminars in person or virtually every week.
When it comes to cancer and nutrition, the research is showing that a really plant-forward way of eating is what is recommended.
Studies have shown a plant-based diet with lots of fruits and vegetables can improve survival rates, minimize side effects of cancer treatment, and reduce risk of recurrence. Dennison has a simple way to incorporate more vegetables into your routine.
We tend to take our healthiest foods and make them our side dishes, but when we're doing a plant-forward way of eating, we're taking our healthiest foods and making that the star. And then we're using meat and seafood and dairy as more of the condiment.
In addition to incorporating more fruits and vegetables, cancer experts say hydration is also key.
We do want our patients to focus on good hydration, non-caffeinated drinks.
An oncologist for 17 years, Dr. Srilata Gundala says research is expanding into how specific foods could aid in the cancer fight.
Nutrition always seems to play, it's like the center of everything. And we want to make sure that our patients understand that because these are easy things that are in their control.
That's what Sylvia Rada has been focusing on. Sylvia was diagnosed with stage 4 kidney cancer in 2017 that spread to her lungs, and then doctors found a brain tumor in 2021.
The first thing is the shock and the thought, oh my gosh, what does this mean for me? How long am I going to be around for?
Immunotherapy treatments are helping keep the cancer at bay, and she credits a plant-forward diet as well.
It gives you a sense of you trying to have control of what's happening with you and trying to make things better for yourself.
Lena and Bill Teibel feel focusing on a healthier diet with limited meat has helped Bill too.
He feels good, his strength is up, and even his doctor is surprised.
Lena admits plant-based eating means more time in the kitchen and trips to the store, but she wouldn't change it.
You can't put a price tag on life. You really can't, and it's made a difference in his life, and I think that matters.
Acupuncture has been around for thousands of years, but now the ancient practice is merging with modern medicine. We took a look at how local family medicine physicians are embracing acupuncture to treat chronic pain.
I'm going to go right in here.
These tiny needles have had a huge impact on Catherine Harvey's quality of life.
When she finishes, there is no pain. My thumb, my wrist, there is no pain. Same as with the ankle.
The 75-year-old suffered with chronic pain for years.
And it got to a point one day in 2014 where I couldn't walk.
That's when she turned to Dr. Kit Lee, one of 3 family medicine physicians at Loyola who are certified in acupuncture.
My favorite way of explaining it is it actually stimulates your own body's defense system to help to heal itself.
The very thin needles,
the needle is so flexible,
are strategically placed.
I'm going to put a point for the wrist.
And can be stimulated with a heat lamp and electrical impulses to boost the body's immune response.
Okay, we got it.
People don't think of it until it is like everything else has failed, let's try acupuncture, which actually makes it daunting because that means that we are it.
But the founder of Moon Rabbit Acupuncture knows it really works.
Everything is connected in our body, and it's super important to remember that, and that's what all Eastern medicine is based on.
More Western-trained doctors signing on is great news, she says.
I'm over the moon thrilled, and the reason is that a lot of people have had a lot of fears around acupuncture.
Michelle Cirincione doesn't love needles, but gave it a try.
I came in and I've never turned back.
A lot of people think of acupuncture as alternative medicine, but those who practice it believe it can complement modern medicine.
It can augment what happens. So I see it as a full system of medicine, and that with the correct application, you can use it for almost anything.
Be sure to find a licensed provider.
You're typically board certified and licensed by their state.
And know that insurance coverage is variable.
Medicare, since I'm over 70, picks up the tab for one diagnosis, which deals with the back.
That means Catherine pays out of pocket for most of her sessions, which are every 3 weeks.
So we got that one.
As acupuncture gains more mainstream acceptance.
My primary care, she says, good, keep it. Don't stop.
It's bringing relief to those suffering from chronic pain.
Up next, the pickleball boom. As more people pick up the sport, doctors are also seeing more injuries. Some expert advice to avoid them. Plus, it's a common practice for serious student athletes, focusing year-round on one sport.
But the risk of injury goes up anywhere by 30 to 50%.
How that singular focus could take them out of the game. Adding strength training to your workouts is a great way to avoid injury. When it comes to athletes, there's been a rise in ACL injuries among women and young girls. That's because women are more likely to tear an ACL than men. Here's why.
It was the first tournament of the season, right as Hannah Laub was driving to the basket.
My knee just kind of gave out, Didn't exactly know what happened at first, but found out I tore my ACL.
A standout athlete in both basketball and softball, the sophomore needed surgery to repair the torn ligament in her left knee.
Recovery was definitely long. I mean, it was like 7 months, so a lot longer than I would want.
And just squat down all the way.
Her surgeon, Dr. Nick Verma, says Hannah's right at the age where this happens more in girls than boys.
Let's say the 15 to 25-year-old range, that girls can be anywhere between 2 to 6 times as likely as the boys or the men in that age group to sustain an ACL injury, which is why it really is a problem for our young women.
You're probably asking why this is more likely to happen in women and girls. Dr. Verma says there aren't a lot of conclusions, but there are several theories.
One is there may be some hormonal issues that occur that cause laxity in the ligaments. Number 2 is that the structure of women's bodies may be different in terms of the wider nature of their hip.
A third involves how women's bodies develop over time.
Does that noisiness bother you at all?
What's frustrating for athletes like Hannah, tearing your ACL once increases the odds it can happen again.
It took out almost a whole year of my recruiting. So, it's one of those things where it's never a good thing for someone to have to go through it.
Dr. Verma says there are ACL injury prevention programs that can help.
We can identify players or patients that have high-risk movement patterns, and with appropriate rehab and kind of literally teaching them how to jump and land and to stabilize their knee, we can take a high-risk athlete and make them a low-risk athlete.
Hannah completed the program as part of her rehab.
That kind of helped push me because I was like, you know what, I want to go play. I want to be able to get back with my team.
She isn't scarred from the tear, instead determined to pursue her dream.
I'm hoping to play in college, one of the sports. I'm doing recruiting for both of them, but we'll see how it goes.
It's often called America's fastest growing sport, but as more and more people pick up pickleball, sports medicine doctors are seeing more injuries. Here's some expert advice to keep you on the court and out of a doctor's office.
4-1-2.
For Janelle Dubois, it was love at first swing.
5 years ago when it first started, I played, people would say, pickleball, what's that? What a silly name.
But Janelle feared her pickleball days were numbered when her knee started to ache.
Flex it again.
She went to see Dr. Jorge Chala at Midwest Orthopedics at Rush.
In her case, what happened is that the meniscus got detached from the back. So it's not just a tear, it got completely detached.
As pickleball gets more popular, Dr. Chala is seeing more injured patients.
Some of the studies that were published say that 50% of the people over the age of 50 are the ones that actually get injured while playing pickleball.
Overuse injuries in knees, hips, wrists, or rotator cuffs are common, along with acute injuries like a sprain or a break from a fall.
Most people say that you shouldn't go more than 2 steps behind when you're running behind, or backwards. because that can cause all those falls.
Doctors say before you even pick up your paddle, there are some things you want to keep in mind to avoid any injuries.
All the basics apply here, and that means a good stretch out regimen, warming up before and after, stretching out after as well.
Before you get caught in the kitchen, you may want to hit the gym.
It's much easier for the body to tolerate controlled motions and controlled strength training than doing something like pickleball from the get-go.
Ooh, good shot.
Proper shoes are required. And last but not least,
No pain, no gain doesn't work very well here. You want to make sure that whenever you do have pain, you consult somebody.
when we spoke to Janelle, it was 18 months after she had surgery to repair her knee.
It was a longer recovery time and longer PT, but once it was done, back on the courts.
Back serving and swinging with a new game plan in mind.
Warm up and cool off. So stretch out before you play and then stretch out after.
Now to a hot topic around kitchen tables and in locker rooms. We're talking about sports specialization. That's when a young player plays one sport year-round, aiming to take their skills to an elite level. We talked to 2 sports medicine doctors who advise against it. When it comes to specializing in just one sport, injury risk is a real concern.
We know that if you super specialize in a sport, particularly early on, that the risk of injury goes up anywhere by 30 to 50%.
Dr. Nick Verma is the head team physician for the Chicago White Sox, and he says baseball is a prime example.
We're starting to see Tommy John procedures, which we would be typically doing in college players, mostly minor league and professional athletes, now happening in kids as young as 12 or 13 years of age. And in fact, the majority of Tommy Johns are now done in patients under 18 versus patients over 18.
Overuse injuries are one thing, but there's also mental health risks as well.
Mentally, there can be some factors of burnt out, perfectionism.
Dr. Kathy Weber says there's more and more research focusing on the impact of focusing on one sport.
There's this whole drive thinking that if you specialize early, you're going to make it to the big leagues. And the reality is that's not being shown.
There's zero scientific data or data if you look at progression of athletes over time to suggest that early specialization in a single sport makes you any better later in life in that sport.
With participation in travel and club teams booming, Dr. Verma says parents need to remember it's a business.
You need to have the participation in order to fund that service.
And it's important to take peer pressure out of the decision-making process.
You see every other kid in your neighborhood playing on all these different leagues. The kids are getting pressured to do it. And they really feel like they either have to commit or just not play. And I don't think that's the right answer for the 95% of our kids.
I've taken care of professional pitchers, and they said they didn't start pitching until they were in college. So specialization later after puberty seems to be more of where we should be going.
When we come back, the warning signs that could save lives.
Luckily, we had just watched your segment the day before.
One couple's incredible story of recognizing signs of a stroke, plus the symptom a suburban mom missed days before her medical emergency. Getting medical help quickly is essential for many health conditions. When it comes to brain aneurysms, a lot of us have one and don't even know it unless it ruptures. And that is why it is so important to know the warning signs. Franny Kravitz can't remember 3 weeks of her life.
I went to go lay down on my bed and I don't remember anything else.
Thankfully, one of her 2 daughters found her in October 2022, a bottle of Advil dumped all over the floor.
She looked at me and I said, "Answer me or I'm going to call the ambulance," and she couldn't answer me, so I called.
Franny was rushed to the hospital where a brain scan found this, a ruptured brain aneurysm.
This only measures about 2 millimeters. That's smaller than a paperclip.
Franny was immediately transferred to North Shore Evanston Hospital for Dr. William Ayres to perform emergency surgery.
We did an endovascular treatment called coiling. We go in through the blood vessels and we fix the aneurysm from the inside out.
Franny spent 3 weeks unconscious in the ICU, her daughters and family by her side.
Waking up in the morning, going to see her, it was like, it didn't feel real.
When she finally woke up, the 56-year-old was stunned.
I was shocked, but then not shocked looking back at my warning signs.
The biggest sign, a horrible headache in the days before her collapse.
I would hold right here to try to alleviate the pain, but I don't know from headaches because I never had them.
This isn't a standard run-of-the-mill headache. This is a headache that goes from 0 to 100 like that, and it does not go away.
Dr. Ayres says it's the rupture, not the aneurysm, that causes the pain. In fact, a lot of people have a brain aneurysm and don't even know it.
If 1 in 50 people have a brain aneurysm, how do we keep that brain aneurysm that we don't even know about from rupturing? It is the same classic things that we talk about in medicine all the time. Keeping your blood pressure under control. Stop smoking.
Franny had smoked previously, and
I knew I had high blood pressure.
It's been nearly 1 year since Franny's surgery, and she knows she's one of the lucky ones.
I'm so grateful. I have the best family.
Sharing their mom's story to help others.
Look out for the warning signs.
A valuable lesson now learned for this neurobiology student and her nursing student sister. Both girls grateful to still have their mom by their side.
She was on death's door, and now it's like a crazy improvement. It's amazing.
Time is also critical if someone is having a stroke. That's why health experts are using a new phrase to help you remember the signs of a stroke. And in one suburban doctor's case, it made all the difference. John Lafferty says it happened out of the blue.
Literally in a flash, his face was contorted and his speech was muffled.
John was the patient at an appointment with his doctor, Bob Magrisso, at this Winnetka office last April when John recognized his doctor was in trouble.
And he was kind of leaning to the right.
All of a sudden, I hear him in the hallway saying, "Dr. Magrisso's got slurred speech."
And I said, "Dr. Magrisso needs help," and then good place to be with the doctor's office.
They called 911 and Bob was rushed by ambulance to North Shore Evanston Hospital.
He was weak on one side of his body and he was what we call neglecting another side of his body as well.
Classic signs of an ischemic stroke. This CT scan shows the massive clot blocking blood flow in Bob's brain.
So the blockage is right there.
Dr. William Ayres was called in to perform a thrombectomy.
We use X-ray, these machines, to track that catheter all the way up from the leg into the brain, and we remove the clot. And in the end, it's like 12, 15-minute procedure.
They told me that as soon as the clot came out, he started talking normally. So it was miraculous.
From that 911 call to the operating room,
90-minute turnaround, you don't get better than that.
Stroke recognition is key, and that's one of the reasons why the saying that you've heard for years about stroke has recently changed. The classic signs of a stroke listed on your screen have long been remembered by the acronym FAST, but health experts have recently started saying be fast.
But about 15% of strokes, ischemic strokes, were missed because they didn't have that BE as part of the acronym. And those were visual changes or eye deviations, and imbalance or dizziness.
These doctors say be fast is exactly what you need to do when someone is having a stroke.
The most important thing that we can do is get someone to this suite as fast as possible.
It worked for Bob, who was fully recovered in a matter of days.
My story proves that. I mean, it's amazing that I'm still here.
That doctor had no lasting issues because he got treatment right away. A mom in Winnetka can now say the same thing. Her husband saw our story about stroke symptoms and recognized his wife was having a stroke the very next day. Jenny Tucker was simply tidying up dog toys.
There was, another toy over here I went to pick up, went down to get it and missed it, which was weird, and then went to get it again and dropped it.
This was in May of 2023 in her Winnetka home. Determined to continue with her morning, she went to finish her son's school lunch.
It felt like I had 10 fingers, like I could not turn the twist tie.
Then the 45-year-old mom of two went to talk to her youngest son and was dragging her right leg.
And I just looked at Ryan and I said, something is wrong, go get your dad.
When her husband Dave came into the room,
she was sort of struggling to keep her balance.
He knew he had to dial 911.
Luckily, we had just watched your segment the day before, and you realized time is of the essence.
The Tuckers had seen our previous story, which spelled out the signs of a stroke, not knowing they'd soon meet neurosurgeon William Ayres after Jenny was rushed to North Shore Evanston Hospital and given clot-busting medication.
After they administered the medicine, I was just kind of looking, I'm like, I'm like, I think I saw you on TV yesterday in a segment on strokes.
Her husband was like, hey, you the guy I saw on TV? And it was such a great experience because, the reason we do things like this is to make sure we educate people.
The acronym for remembering stroke symptoms recently changed from FAST to Be Fast, with the B and the E standing for balance and eyesight issues.
Balance issues were Jenny's first sign.
As soon as the whole right side started to feel weird, I think it finally clicked.
It was happening verbatim. Everything that we watched the previous day was like unfolding in front of me. And I just knew that, you have to get them help as quickly as possible.
Those quick actions worked.
Being that young and having a major medical problem averted is an absolute blessing.
Jenny has no lasting damage from the stroke, only gratitude.
I'm so lucky.
Now that's a great outcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm Lauren Petty. Stay tuned each week to NBC5 News as we continue to bring you more stories to benefit your health and wellness.